Well, Clint Eastwood, he
Okay.
casts off tape.
I hope.
He casts off tape. He casts me off tape.
All right.
Did you audition for Clint or did you cast off tape?
No, it was for casting director, and I actually auditioned for a different role, and then they're like same sort of thing where they're like, dude, you're fantastic. We don't think you're right for this, but hey, there's this smaller role, but it's actually really powerful. And it's
What movie?
Letters of Iwo Jima.
Right.
So there's this role that's like super cool, and like it's gonna paint this terrible thing about war, and we think you could crush it.
You're a Marine.
Yeah, and originally I was gonna have this like insane dying death scene, like. Again, it's someone looking like the whole point was just showing how awful it is. And like, some kid fresh off the boat, like barely out of high school, fighting for his life. And it's this really cool dying scene. And I went out there. First off, it was the craziest experience. I went out in Barstow and tried to find base camp. And there's thousands, like you'd go over these rolling hills to where we had to park and there's no information. And I'd come over to the hill and there'd be like 300 soldiers, Japanese soldiers, they don't speak English, or they weren't speaking English to me, and I was trying to figure out where else. Dude, it took me like 2 hours to get to where I needed to go. And again, it was so crazy that like at base camp there was just no information, so it was a very weird experience. Like it was
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. And then they put me through like a boot camp with like a real Marine, and we're there with other actors, and some actors might look like Marines, but they have zero. They're just fumbling over themselves. They don't know how to hold a gun, or like, when they're like, act like you're at war and crawl. And like, there's a giant dude who looks.
But they went to boot camp.
No, we're in like a temporary boot camp. It was just like a, they like a,
like this is how you do things quickly.
Yeah. Or like to make it look legitimate. And then, and they asked me if I want to do it. And I was like, heck yeah. And thank God I can look like, I can act like I'm a soldier, because this guy would ream other actors. Like, I mean, he was just relentless, like real.
And you?
No, not me. He didn't. I never got in that crosshair. Thank God. But like, I mean, I saw like a giant man almost cry.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
An actor,
No, an actor I met.
Right.
But yeah, it was intense. It was a wild experience.
Well,
and then all the stuff, like day one, that we shot one scene, and then
wait a minute. You're missing when you worked with Clint, the first time you met Clint.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of my first scenes again.
Did he say anything to you? Like, nice to see you.
I mean, he was super nice.
He had a lot going on.
He did. I mean, so one of my favorite stories, the first time I actually met him was, again, I didn't know where base camp was, because this thing was massive.
Right.
So we're talking with like handlers, I guess, like, and like this Marine guy, like telling us what to do. And just, it was such a simple scene. My first scene, we were just running over hill. I had no lines, nothing, just running over hill. Trying to escape for whatever. I don't even remember. But so we run over this hill, and then there's this whole thing behind me where bombs are going off, and like a couple Marines capture a soldier or whatever. But so I'm one of the first over the hill, and I come over this hill, and it's base camp. Like, oh, here it is. And Clint Eastwood's there, and right next to base camp is this, like, it looks like wood that has been in the sea it's a desert, so it's just been crazy pile of wood, and he's poking a stick at it. And I'm like, I went up to introduce myself, and he like, he looked at me, but then he was like, shh, this thing is crazy. And I was like, I didn't know what he was talking about. He's poking the wood. And I thought I was like, the wood? And then finally this crazy looking squirrel comes running out, and that was what he was doing. And that was how I met him at first.
It's crazy. It's a crazy squirrel.
And I was just dying laughing. And I was like, this is the first time I met him. He's going to win awards for this, I bet. And the first time I met him, he's like not paying attention to what's going on at all. Now, granted, every time after that he was, and the next time I ran over. But it's just funny. The first time I met him, it didn't even look like he was watching what was going on. He was paying attention to the squirrel.
I think there's something to that.